Okay, let's then focus on chances and risks briefly. As I said before, chance and risk are two sides of the same coin. There is a trade-off, no chance without risk. There is a very old saying, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. You don't get anything for free, in particular, not money on competitive wholesale energy markets. So optimal portfolio management thus always needs to look at both chances and risks. For a portfolio management team, price-related chances and risks are mostly tied to the open position and price changes. The larger the open position, the more chances and risks you have, and the more frequent and the more severe price changes appear, the larger your chances and your risk. So, chance-wise, a positive open position, a long position as we called it, plus rising prices equals profit, that's the good case, plus falling prices equals losses. And a negative open position, a short position, it's vice versa. The higher the open position in either direction, the more leverage we have. So we can steer the risk by managing the open position. Prerequisite, however, is to know the open position, and that's why I asked a minute ago, how do you see the open position for household customers? How would you estimate that? So how to determine the open position in practice? We have defined it already for a retail-focused company as procurement buy minus retail sales or consumption. That is, OPH is equal to buy H minus con H depending on pH. Sometimes this is straightforward. Sometimes, however, challenges appear. So what is the retail sales volume for next year of a household customer currently being delivered? You have to work with probabilities here. Second thing, monitoring both buying and selling in real time can be challenging. For example, data processing systems of energy utilities may be inadequate. So you don't always know the open position in real time, which makes managing the open position difficult. In both cases, we need reasonable estimates. And in particular, now coming back to the households, what is often done in practice is we say, we assume we deliver this many gigawatt hours next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So we have an assumed total sales volume for the households, but we don't have a point in time where we include it in the open position as assigned bulletproof sales. So what we do is we define a procurement period, 2 years, 3 years, and on each day we virtually book a little bit of this estimated total household selling volumes into our open position. Essentially, that boils down to assuming that over a procurement period, each day we buy a little bit in a risk-free setting. That's what I said. That way, the benchmark would be the average price over the procurement period for households. And then the portfolio management does a good job if it procures at prices below that level. If they procure at prices above that level, they didn't do a good job. While it's different, let's repeat this again, for industry customers. For industry customers, we have a precise date when they enter the open position as a sale. And there, the crystal clear task for the portfolio management is to either buy before having a long position out of which we can then sell to that customer, or if they want to wait until later and then buy that amount. But essentially, we have a crystal clear daily sales price on the wholesale market at which we could have procured the back-to-back deal for the sale for this industry customer. Once again, we don't have that for the households. That's why we have to use estimates. And one reasonable estimate is to book in a little bit of a total aggregated estimated demand profile for the households on each trading day, which boils down to benchmarking against the average price for the households. That's a reasonable estimate. Okay, so coming back to the open position, that's what we want to steer. That's how we want to make money. We can do that back to back. Theoretically, that enables an open position equal to 0 by ensuring that purchase and sale contracts are concluded at the same time. No price risk, no chance, no money from this regard. In practice, there are reasons for taking chances and the associated risks. One is, as we said before, the expectation of positive contribution margin through active management of the open position expected from portfolio management team. They're supposed to deliver revenues by being smarter than the market. That's truly what it boils down to, and not every company is having that view. I have worked in the past with risk-averse companies who are saying, well, we are a municipality. Our core competency is not competing on wholesale markets with the giants like RWE, EDF, and Vattenfall. Our core competency is being close to our consumers, our customer base, locally. That's what we do. And thus, we are aware there is no chance when we don't take the risk, but we don't want the risk. We believe the risk is higher than the chances, so we do back-to-back procurement. Totally fine. It's very valid reasoning. Others see it differently. That's also totally fine. Okay, so this is one reason to deviate, which you can or cannot do. Second is customer requests. Flexible purchase quantities. We have already discussed this. If we don't know until the customer consumes it, how much the customer actually consumes, hard to avoid an open position. And then we have an issue with the period of validity for proposals. Often your sales team goes to a customer wants an offer, and then you hand out that offer, say today, and then the customer says, thanks for the offer, I will discuss this. In the end, our board will decide. It may take 2 or 3 weeks. Again, the portfolio management team may start sweating on this, because do they buy today? Today's price is in the offer with the client. If the client says yes, then today's price is relevant. So for low risk, well, let's buy today. But you do not know whether the client truly signs in the end. They may come back 2 weeks from now and say, well, our managing director did not sign. And then you bought wrongly in the end and had a risk you didn't want, but you couldn't avoid. So there is no way, except for being very, very short on these validities of proposals, to avoid that risk. And then there is the duration of the contracts, as we said. Even if the household is with you in the beginning of the year, you don't know whether in December he or she will still be with you. So you may have bought too much energy for the end of the year due to household customers changing their supplier during the year. Last but not least, insufficient liquidity in the long term. We have already discussed this. If you invest in a generation asset, then you have an open position in the future, a long position. You need somebody to offload the generation to avoid risks, but you may not find somebody in the very long term, such as 2040. Okay, mostly repeating structured procurement under consideration of sales. We should be comparing current sales volumes to current procurement volumes, ideally in real time, to manage the open position. The portfolio management tries to undercut the wholesale price at the time of the sales deal. So they will not be able, the wholesale price is the wholesale price. But by waiting, they may get a better deal than what the wholesale price today is. Okay, the graph just shows how we derive the open position. This should now be clear, I would say. Okay, then let's focus on influencing parameters on sales. Market expectation of the energy utility drives direction and size of the open position. So, as we said before, if we believe in rising prices, we should be short. No, we should be long, of course. Rising prices, we should be long. We should buy now, have the electricity already stored virtually for the future delivery period, so we are long. And then our sales team goes out and sells at higher prices. And then, of course, in the management of the process, every sales success sends a procurement signal by modifying our open position. Every sale reduces the open position. If it was positive after we sold something, it's less positive. If it was 0 after a sale, it's negative. If it was already negative, it is even more negative after the sale. And then we can have limit or event-oriented procurement strategies. But it's important to recognize that current sales are vital information for the amount of energy to be procured, for the procurement structure, and the timing of procurement. This is an issue that the sales team and the procurement team have to work together closely. Procurement strategies, repetition. They can be limit-oriented, determination of volatility-based limit prices at the beginning of the month or quarter. If the limit price is exceeded, buy. Downward dynamic limits are the regular setting. We have discussed them using the example. Stop loss limit, typical profit with falling prices and risk minimization. But you could also have procurement strategies that are event-oriented. Procurement decision based on market decisions. For example, monthly prices, technical corrections, etc. Market expectation of the portfolio manager, that's what I said. For example, using energy systems models, building your fundamental market expectations. And then you can, of course, extend this to routes for spot market transactions. You can include option trading, we're coming back to that, trend following strategies, and so on and so on. So we have done, I think, significant job already up to this point, several hours of videos explaining the content, but on the other hand, talking to the experts in the field, of course, we have scratched the surface. We have shown the principles, but there is a lot left to learn. Okay, the pros and cons of this open position-oriented strategies. It's focused on the company result, it's transparent, and it enables the calculation of key metrics such as value at risk, profit at risk. It's possible. The cons is high data requirements. I said not every municipality is able to provide this data in real time. And you have to work together, for example, between sales team and procurement team, because you have to have the information in real time. And of course, the sales team, if they just landed a major client, they're probably sitting there celebrating, hopefully even with the client, drinking a little bit of sparkling water or something, celebrating the deal. They will not think about, we should inform our procurement team. They have to know that the contract was signed immediately. They should. But they may not think about this. So you need interfaces, and I would suggest, if I'm asked as a consultant, I would suggest profit responsibility. You need clear-cut rules in place, and we will come back to that later in this video, not in this video, but in this course, how we can arrange profit responsibility so that we have internal transfer prices, making sure the incentives are set right. That I find very helpful in practice. Okay, then let's look briefly at the whole process. What we discussed so far in terms of buying on the wholesale market with a portfolio management team and selling to retail clients. Historically, that happens by signing a full supply contract between the municipality and a large supplier once a year without a risk analysis. That's what happened before liberalization and directly after liberalization. Today, we have an optimization of the risk-return expectation, lowering of procurement costs through active trading, often targeted assumptions of price change risks. So a lot of complexity and very, very sophisticated processes in place. Dealing with the risks requires a high degree of professionalism and market knowledge and implies greater administrative effort. That's why we come back to this. That's why in this course I do not exclusively focus on the trading aspect, but I also provide insights into the risk management. Because again, I would strongly advise to complement trading activities with a good risk management. Okay, but there is an alternative trade-off even. You can develop your own capacities for this. Being a municipality, it probably depends on your size. If you're large, you want your own capacities. But if you're small, you may consider outsourcing or cooperations on that regard. Not every municipality needs access to the wholesale market. That, for example, was, when I was there, the business model of 300 European Energy Trading. It did this as a service, as a consulting service for municipalities. The municipality said, we are too small to have our own wholesale management and portfolio management team. And they bought it as a service. Or for a company, we said, what we described here, it's also valid for large consumers such as Deutsche Bahn or chemical companies such as Bayer or BASF. But where is the threshold? Which consumption size do you need to do it yourself? Or when should you outsource this? Because there is a lot of complexity involved. That's what you see here. Portfolio management requires risk management, structured products, sales, trading, energy data management, and an analytics department. So you have a lot of expertise you need to do it properly. How the process goes? We start with an analysis of the portfolio, then we develop the procurement strategy on the basis of the objectives and the risk guidelines. Then we have the regular portfolio and market information, for example, as part of reports, which we use to get the market sentiment and then to decide on purchases or sales decisions. And once the decisions are taken, they have to be implemented, so we do the market transactions. Portfolio management established more and more for procurement purposes, but also for generation units. That's what we discuss next, which is then called generation asset portfolio management. And then it's also for types of fuels, because if you have, for example, a conventional power plant which converts gas to electricity, you need the gas. If you even have a coal-fired power plant, you need the coal. So you have to buy fuels and you have to manage emission allowances, CO2. That's further steps. Thanks for watching. I would like to close this video. Thank you.